these drugs that are being sold now as puberty blockers are better known as GnRH agonists. These drugs have been in use on adults since the 1980s. They are an agonist or an artificial mimic of gonadotropin-releasing hormone, which is one of the body's natural hormones. During adolescence and adulthood, natural GnRH is produced in the hypothalamus, a part of the brain, and picked up by special receptors on the pituitary gland. This isn't the greatest brain diagram, but you can see basically where this happens. GnRH agonists bind to special receptors on the pituitary gland, just like the natural hormone does. In its natural form, GnRH signals the pituitary gland to produce something called luteinizing hormone, LH, and LH in turn signals the gonads to produce the sex hormones. The body naturally produces GnRH in pulses, so this is how the pituitary gland is designed to process it. But GnRH agonists work continuously. In doing so, they overstimulate the GnRH receptors, and the pituitary gland gets overloaded and stops processing GnRH in self-defense. No GnRH processing means no LH, which means no sex hormones. This is actually quite dangerous because the sex hormones have a lot of functions in the body. For example, there are sex hormone receptors on cardiomyocytes, which are cells that control the heartbeat. Estrogen and testosterone are also involved in bone maintenance, brain health, DNA repair, obviously in reproduction, and in a lot of other areas. So completely removing sex hormones from the body can have massive systemic effects, and these can cascade into multiple areas of the body, as we'll see later on. GnRH agonists aren't just used to prevent healthy children from growing up. They were first used for prostate cancer, and they've been used for a number of other conditions that are caused or exacerbated by excess sex hormones, at least in theory. So for example, there's a theory that endometriosis is caused by excess estrogen. Excess testosterone can cause uterine fibroids in women, and some children's bodies start producing sex hormones unusually early, which is considered a medical condition. GnRH agonists have also been used to chemically castrate sex offenders, since lowering testosterone lowers men's libido. And they were at one point used as a supposed cure for autism, on one doctor's theory that high testosterone caused autism, for which, as far as I know, there's no actual evidence. You'll be happy to know that the doctor in question, Mark Geyer, actually lost his medical license for using GnRH agonists on autistic kids. And in their judgment revoking his license, the Maryland State Board of Physicians cited a known substantial risk of serious harm, including risk of bone and heart damage and fertility suppression. And the same document quotes Mark Geyer himself, admitting that the drugs caused chemical castration. A big part of this scandal was that Geyer knowingly chemically castrated autistic children with GnRH agonists, which are the same drugs doctors are now giving to children as puberty blockers. The current justification for giving these drugs to children is that these kids have been diagnosed with gender dysphoria, which is a supposed mental illness listed in the DSM-5. The symptoms include clinically significant distress and things like wearing non-stereotypical clothes, not conforming to narrowly defined roles, and playing with Hot Wheels when you're expected to be playing with Barbies. So basically a lot of sexist stereotypes. We know from news reporting and scientific studies that the gender dysphoria diagnosis is disproportionately given to girls, autistic kids, and kids who will grow up gay or lesbian. Which makes sense at a glance, right? There are a lot of silly girl stereotypes out there that don't represent most girls. One of the hallmarks of autism is not fitting into social norms. And homosexuals are more likely to be non-stereotypical for our sex. Actually, you could say that all homosexuals go against those stereotypes because we're not developing crushes on people of the opposite sex. The stereotype of a girly girl is that she's boy crazy, and the stereotype of a teenage boy is that he's constantly thinking about having sex with girls. And if you're homosexual, you automatically don't fit that. So that's common sense, but there's also hard evidence to show that homosexuals are more likely to buck sex stereotypes from a young age, and more likely to be given a gender dysphoria diagnosis early in life.